So when you get older, all you do is talk about the weather and what you're going to eat. It's
We
ridiculous.
can. Hey, guess what, Fish? We are live and we have got another biggie. Heisman Trophy winner and NFL superstar Ricky Williams joins us. We will gab, that's right, he's a Longhorn too. We'll gab a lot about that, including his new cannabis line. The Daily Fish Hardline will review the Rams Super Bowl win, and we will look ahead to the NBA and college hoops with the Hardline. Plus, we have a roster of schmucks of the week. And who's got the swag is a man who has a big, big heart helping a little girl going through a tough, tough time. And we have some binge blockbusters and books, no sex tapes, but we will look at a new series with some. And we will look at a documentary about an NFL great who lost everything. Plus, in the grind, we're going to look at how Hollywood has invaded all LA sports. And we'll tell you our favorite Super Bowl commercials. Nothing to cough at. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Daily Fish. John Daly here with Eric Snyder, a.k.a. Fish. We're coast to coast. Coming to you from Las Vegas and Myrtle Beach, we talk sports, entertainment, and everything in between. Oh, Fish, we got another good one tonight. I'm looking forward to this.
My alma mater, there's two statues outside Texas Memorial Stadium. The great Earl Campbell and the eyes of Texas are upon you for Ricky Williams. Welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. We're looking forward to Ricky. All right. It's time for the daily grind. Here's what we're grinding on first: politics and the Hall of Fame. Both the baseball and football Hall of Fame committees seem to be getting very political in their selection process. Fish, explain.
I don't get how some guys have to wait till they die to get in. Cliff Branch, who just got in for the Raiders, and of course I'm biased,
Yeah.
had tremendous numbers, bigger than some of the numbers of the guys that are in there already. I don't understand the process. There were rumors that Kenny Stabler didn't get in when Dan Fouts did and Bob Greasy got in, and Stabler was a tremendous quarterback in the 70s and 80s, early 80s. He passes away. It's away that are 12 years after he passes away to get in. And rumors had it that he might have slept with some of the committee members in the Hall of Fame selection wives. I get that. But still, he deserved to be in the Hall of Fame. Baseball is the same thing. I don't understand how some years baseball has no guys going in. I mean, and then there's debate whether or not Clemens and Bonds should be in because of the steroids. Baseball seems to be harder to get in, but it seems too political for me. I mean, is stats the only reason, John, or is off the field issues another?
I think there are some. So, for instance, in baseball, I think Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame. Okay, he was involved in gambling, but he didn't gamble against his team. He didn't bet against his team. He did it after he was playing. Was he managing? Yes. He didn't hurt the performance of the game. Kurt Schilling. I think Kurt Schilling should be in there. A lot of people don't like him because they don't like his politics. He is a little goofy when it comes to that, but Kurt Schilling is a Hall of Fame pitcher. He should be in. I think he hurt himself when he said, "Oh, I don't want to. Don't vote for me. I don't want to go in," because he was angry at that. But Bonds and Clemens, yeah, great ball players. Should they be in there? I think they hurt the game. I think they hurt the performance of the game. So I can kind of understand that, but the other two, I don't. So I hear what you're saying, and I agree with you. And again, I'm not arguing one way or another. I'm just saying that there are different aspects that sometimes don't make sense. So next, some Super Bowl thoughts. The LA tradition of seeing every Hollywood star in the stands is alive and well. It was no different Sunday than the Lakers showing off Jack Nicholson courtside in the 80s and 90s. But Fish, let me ask you this: has this expanded even more so now?
It's horrible. Every time there's a game in LA, they're going to the stands and they're going to the private boxes to show the celebrities. I'll go back to the late 80s. I'm a big Kings fan, had season tickets to the Kings in my family. Hockey, 8,000 people strong at the Forum. When they traded for Gretzky, it sold out. And next thing you see, I had great seats. What the hell is Sylvester Stallone and Sharon Stone doing here? You know, every single celebrity of the late 80s and rappers and rock stars are now going to the events. And that, you know what? They're not paying for their tickets. And I think it's disingenuous. I love using that word. I mean, look, when you see Ben Affleck and Matt Damon at Red Sox games, they're Red Sox fans.
Yeah.
I get it. But in LA, those celebrities are drunk, they're high, they're doing what they have to do. They're smoking a little cannabis maybe. But I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it because it's not what LA. I'm from LA. It's not what LA is all about. There's good people in the stands also.
Well, there are, and they're good fans there. I would also say a lot of it's entertainment meetings. Some of them are meeting, and they're having their normal conferences of working out deals. Plus, I would also say, my take is that entertainment and sports are so intertwined in America, and we see it infiltrating into our news news coverage as well. So I think the big stars, they know that and they take advantage of it. Go ahead. What are you going to say?
I will say one thing, John, and you point this out to me. When Fox does their World Series to do sport events and they're promoting the show, like you would see members of Rescue, they had a show called, let's say, Rescues Are Us. So they had one of the Fox shows. They would have the entire cast there and introduce them and say, look, when this ends tonight, you're going to get the premiere of this show. I like that. They're promoting their own brand.
Yeah, I actually like that too. All right, the other stars of the Super Bowl were the TV commercials. Like the game, they were good. Fish, give us your standouts.
The same thing. You and I text each other back and forth. When the crypto commercial came on with Larry David, you know when you fall off your couch and you hold your side? It's about him going through the time. And if you didn't see the commercial, I'll give you an example. Thomas Edison says to Larry Davis, wow, Larry David, Larry, this is a light bulb. And David goes, I think it stinks, And then I thought it was great. I love the nostalgia of the Sopranos commercial where you show the car going through the Sopranos open, that great song. And it's his daughter from the show, and she gets out of the car like he did, Gandolfini, but she goes and she embraces her little brother on the show, who, by the way, was Robert Eiler. That was Jamie Lynn Sigler. I love the Lay's potato chips one with Paul Rudd and Seth Rogen going through their lives. I thought there's some really good commercials. What about you, John?
Yeah, you hit them all right there. And I agree. The Larry David one was my favorite about the cryptocurrency. One of the other ones I enjoyed was Anna Kendrick doing the Barbie conversation for Rocket Mortgage. I thought that was actually very creative and a lot of fun. And I know a lot of women probably enjoyed that too. Here's my pet peeve about the whole thing. I won't give kudos to a commercial, even if it's funny and engaging, but you don't know what product they're pitching. To me, that's kind of a waste of money. So if it's really funny, but I have no idea what you're pitching, it doesn't make sense. I thought those commercials that we talked about, you did know what they were pitching, and I think it makes an awful lot of sense. So finally on the grind, something to discuss with Ricky Williams. A recent Gallup poll says 68% of Americans think marijuana should be legalized nationally. Cannabis is so medicinal, but frowned upon by our sports leagues. Fish, toke on that one for us.
Crazy. Nice. I'm in the bar business. 41 years. I said every year I'm a bartender. And my job, my only job besides serving you, is to get you home safe. That's what I think about in my job, because the alcohol could turn on you and you get a different personality. You get at it. Pot does the same thing to you. But how do you know a player didn't go out the night before a drink, and a player night before a game and go out and drink? They don't test for that in the morning. Then they drink a pound of Listerine. You never know. But they're shit-faced and they're hungover. You don't know that, okay? And they don't test for that. Why? Why not? Why aren't they testing for that? The players put Toradol in their body, which is the highest painkiller, less than morphine, which has effects on you in your body. They do that, all right? There's steroids. Like I said, alcohol consumption. I don't know why there's such a big deal about pot, but it's cost Josh Gordon his career, and it cost Ricky, who's coming up with, some problems in the NFL. I don't get it, and I think people have to wake up.
I would agree with you. And, one of the other interesting things that we're seeing in the Olympics, if you go back to last summer, American sprinter Sha'Carri Richardson, she was banned from the Tokyo Olympics because she smoked marijuana after her mother's death. Yet the Russians have a figure skater, Kamila Valieva, at the Beijing Olympics now, and she allegedly tested with a banned heart drug, but she stays in there. So there is something a little strange about that. All right, sure. Fish, and that is the Daily Grind, and this is show 43 already. How about that, Fish, huh? Questions or comments during the live show, use the chat box here or email us at dailyfish1@gmail.com. You can post to Facebook at daily.fish.5. Better yet, record yourself short, tight, and horizontal on your smartphone and send it to dailyfish1, again, the number one, dailyfish1@gmail.com. All right, time for binge blockbusters and books. It's time for some binge watching. Fish, go ahead.
What have I ever told you about comedians or comic guys that do a serious role? I am watching, it's probably the best thing I've watched in 6 months. It's called Pam and Tommy on Hulu. It's a true story about Pamela Anderson and Tommy Lee, and Seth Rogen is the guy I'm talking about. Sebastian Stan plays Tommy Lee, and Lily James plays Pamela Anderson, and they nail it. But Seth Rogen plays the one guy who's a carpenter, all right? He has problems with Tommy Lee paying him for some work he's doing on his house, and he steals a famous sex tape, and he makes it go national. They've only shown 3 episodes of it, and they're gonna release 4, and they're gonna release the rest. I am so hooked that I wish there's a way I could find it and watch it now instead of having to wait for him to release on Hulu next Friday. It's that good.
Wow, that's great. I'm going to go with the Netflix documentary series called The Killer Inside the Mind of Aaron Hernandez. It's brilliant and revealing, and I followed that story of Aaron Hernandez with the Patriots. But the doc brings out things from Hernandez's recorded conversations in prison that even I didn't know. It's really worth it. And yes, you do have some sympathy for him concerning mental health and football concussions. That is The Killer Inside the Mind of Aaron Hernandez. It's about 6 episodes. And that is Binge Blockbusters in Book. Now, something smell funny? That means it's time for Something's Fishy. What do we have, Fish? Uh-oh, the glasses.
I'll put them back on today. I was told by our comments, keep your glasses on. You're not that good looking. Yes, I am. I'm all about Hardison's in the queue. I'm all about the threads and the gear and swag. You know, I have that younger attitude when it comes to fashion. Look at Joe Burrow from the Super Bowl. He does not look like he is very, very comfortable wearing that, okay? It looks like it's too tight around his nutsack. It goes down too quick, and you don't need tennis shoes with that. I'm not being Mr. Blackwell here, but I'm telling you, all right? Look at Joe Burrow. This is another Joe Burrow, okay? That looks good. That's a Joe Namath look. I like that. That's him leaving the Super Bowl. He came in and won and left with the other. So this guy's got an entourage of clothing behind him. Love it. Okay. But you really want to get serious in this, John. This is the guys that deserve to really show the thread. Look at Cam Newton. If you're gonna wear something like that Joe Burrow did, look at Cam. Cam looks good. Yeah. He just represents the material well. It fits his body well. His hat looks better than Joe Burrow's did. Okay, Joe Burrow did. Look at Cam. This is Cam leaving the game in Carolina. Stuff. I mean, he can wear the tennis shoes, but I like the whole ensemble, the belt. Listen to me. I saw my mother was a customer, right? And the jacket looks great, but I'm going to go old school. And Hardison, if you're in the queue, John and I remember Starsky and Hutch. This is the original guy of swag. This is Antonio Fargas, Huggy Bear, baby, who's on Starsky and Hutch. His son, Justin Fargas, played for the Raiders for many years. Star running back at USC around the same time Ricky was at University of Texas. You know, I love it. And then look at Huggy. Look at him. Like, I don't know where this one came from. That's him kind of recent. That looks great. I love all that kind of stuff. So what's fishy about it is, to me, John, and I'll get out of this segment, is if you're going to wear something, make sure the contours of those clothes fit your body. And you're not just doing it because you want to look good. Okay, Joe Burrow looked good looking like Namath, like that. Yeah. He didn't look good with his nutsack strangled. He's not going to get laid that night.
Yeah. Well, at the same time too, it's kind of I wasn't crazy about the outfit. I know they were trying to do a Bengals thing. It just didn't work. But then again, who am I? I don't know. You know, I wear glasses and a button-down shirt. So anyway, all right. Still ahead, our Schmuck of the Week, along with Who's Got the Swag. But first, it is time now for the Daily Fish Hardlines. Joining us is John Hardison from the podcast The Cost of Winning, focusing on fantasy sports and sports betting. Hardline, welcome back, buddy.
Hey, guys, thanks for having me. I'm not going to do a victory lap like Dan Orlowski, but I'm going to give myself a pat on the back for my boy. He was smart enough to go ahead and get out of Detroit and go to a winning team.
What about our props? What about our props we have? We had over 1.5 interceptions. We had over 4.5 sacks. We both did it. So pat yourself on the back. And you had Cincinnati. You had the Rams winning and Cincinnati covering. All right? Yeah.
That's how I bet it.
You effing crushed it this year in football. So as we talk about the Super Bowl, and John will take it from here, we're going to see how good you are in basketball and golf.
Yeah, well, let's talk NBA, because there was a huge trade right after we got off the air last week. Talk about that and how that upsets things.
So there were 2 big trades that I saw last week. I'll start with the latter, which is the Halliburton going to Indianapolis for Sabonis going to the Kings, which I agree with JJ Redick. It's a head scratcher. I don't understand why a guy that you had going possibly top 3 last year in the NBA draft, you ship out of your town to Indianapolis. And kudos to the Indianapolis Pacers for getting it right. I mean, they went for a young team. They're not going anywhere this year. Start to build those assets up. You got some shooters, especially with Buddy Hield. So you got a great coach in Rick Carlisle. So you have things that you're building up. On the other side, it just goes back to the kings being the queens. You know what I mean? As Shaq and Kobe would say, it just makes no sense. They just keep doing the same thing over and over again. I think the only reason maybe why you go for that is to shed Buddy Hield's contract. But if I'm De'Aaron Fox, I'm trying to get out of there as quickly as possible. I'm calling my agent and I'm asking them next season. I'm just going to sit out unless they trade me, because at this point they've got rid of Marvin Bagley, who I think they got rid of him specifically because you could have had Luka Doncic or you could have had Trae Young, and you completely missed on those. And then you ended up, you hit it right on Fox, but you're missing a lot of pieces. But in terms of the biggest trade of last week, Ben Simmons, it is interesting because you basically have scrapped your whole team. You've basically said, I don't think what we have right now is worth it, how it's going to work. And essentially, it was almost just a player swap. They both traded number one first-round picks, 2 first-round picks. And I think if you want the truth, even though I'm a big Harden fan, I do think that the Nets got the better answer in that, because you now have Seth Curry, who's a very good three-point shooter. Not as good as his brother, but he brings three-point shooting to that team. You added Ben Simmons, who's a much better defender than James Harden is. And then you added Andre Drummond, who is not very talked about, but he, as a backup center this year, he's had multiple 20-rebound games. So I think that you've shored up a couple things. I still don't think that the Nets are going to win it all, but I think it's put them in a much better position. In regards to Philly, it's win now. There is no, you want to talk about the Rams being in a win now situation. Philly has put themselves in a win now situation. And if I'm Doc Rivers, I have to have this conversation with my team, which is, we are the LA of the East. There are no excuses this year. It has to be this year.
One of the big stories for me, and obviously it's very important to John, it's close to his heart, the Providence Friars college basketball team. All right. They play they play Villanova tonight in Providence, and it's they play them twice. Big game tonight, and they have 6 seniors on this team. They're playing tough for Ed Cooley, their head coach. What do you think? Any insight on this game? Give John something he can hold on to.
I'll take Providence +4 tonight. You know what? They're a good team. They're a solid team. But the biggest thing is, if you look at Villanova, they started off a little rough, but they've gotten better and better. They really haven't lost any games. Jay Wright is starting to hit his stride. He usually does this the last few years, where they start off rough, but they end up picking it up towards the end. Do I think that Villanova is going to win it all this year? No. But do I think that Providence and them will split? Absolutely. I think that Providence is a solid team. They're a great team. I think they're trending in the right direction. But from what I've seen from Jay Wright the last few years and what I've seen from him this season, it's hard to bet against them. I mean, he's just a great coach. But, you can make some money off Providence +4.
Well, that's interesting. And they're at home tonight. So I guess tonight would be the night to bet them. And then maybe in Philly at the end of the season, right before the Big East tournament, would probably be the right one. So much appreciated. All our Friar fans are much appreciated that. Hey, golf coming up too. We have the Genesis Invitational coming up at Riviera. This was the old LA Open. John Rahm is the favorite. Do you bet that, or do you look at other things on this?
So for this, I definitely bet John Rahm. I mean, he's the best golfer right now that's out there. But if you want to hedge, look, the defending champ is back. I don't think that that's something to sneeze at. I would hedge on both sides of them. I would put money on John Rahm, but I would also go with the defending champ. I mean, it's hard to let that go, but I mean, John Rahm has been playing exceptional the last 2 years.
Let me ask you this, going back to the NBA. We have a couple of men in here. This is one of the most explosive trade deadlines I've seen, including Major League Baseball and football and hockey.
Yeah.
You had Porzingis, Harden. I think Harden and Russell Westbrook are the 2 best players in the NBA that have never won a championship. Who do you think gets that championship first? You think Simmons going to New Jersey has a better chance getting the finals? Or you're putting Joel Embiid along with Harden in Philadelphia? What team could come out of the East? I know you like Cleveland Cavaliers to make a run at the end, but what do you think?
You know what? I do think that the Nets are poised to make a really good run. I mean, they're just stacked. The biggest thing with them is I just don't trust Kyrie Irving. I don't. And I don't trust Kevin Durant in the sense that they're always somewhat injured. There's always 2 weeks in which Kevin Durant goes out because he's got a knee problem going on right now. In regards to Russell Westbrook, excuse me, they got to blow up that team. And I mean, they're good enough to make the playoffs. They're questionable. Are they able to make a run? And there's been reports, and we've talked about this the last couple of weeks, about durability and how LeBron's had to play extended time because of everyone's being injured. And Stephen A. Smith brought it up today, like we brought it up a couple of weeks ago. Do you consider in the offseason trading Anthony Davis? Yes, he's talented, but you're only, what did Bill Belichick say? You're only as good as you're able to play. And if you're not able to play, you're not that useful to me.
No, actually, Vince Lombardi said you're only as good if for your ability and your availability.
All right. And that is the Daily Fish Hardline with John Hardison and the Cost of Winning podcast. Find him here with us every week, but also on Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. But he's going to be coming back in a few minutes to join us with Ricky Williams. Hardline, we'll see you in a little bit.
See you soon, guys.
All right, hang in there. And again, we are waiting for Ricky Williams to be coming in. So we haven't seen him in the queue yet, but he's supposed to be on here pretty soon. So folks, thanks for tuning in. First of all, Daily Fish is live on Facebook, normally Tuesdays at 6 p.m. and 3 p.m. Pacific. We went on earlier today because of Ricky. That was the only time Ricky could come on with us. You can see us on Facebook at Myrtle Beach Golf Channel and Myrtle Beach Grand Strand Life. We are on DBNA Television on Roku and Amazon Fire. We stream 24/7 on the DBNA Television website. Follow us and like us on Facebook at daily.fish.5. You can also subscribe on YouTube. All right, now it is time for our Schmuck of the Week. Fish, a whole lineup of schmuckiness, huh?
Yes, I'll do a Schmuck of the Week and put the icon up there if there's a schmuck. But there wasn't anyone that really was that bad this week, other than politicians trying to, start World War III. But I don't have enough time to put all these idiots on there. And you know how I feel about politicians, okay? So I did a slideshow. The Daily Fish, our staff, put together a slideshow of stupid, schmucky things people do. What idiot put braces on an ostrich? Are you kidding me? That's harassment right there, animal harassment. I can't take it. Look at this idiot from the Appalachian. This might be her husband. She's got a goat in her backpack. Look at straddle. Look at she's straddling right there. I mean, that's somewhere in Arkansas, and I don't know if that's her husband or what, but that's a goat.
Again, greatest of all time. Come on.
Hey, Tom Brady found something to do in retirement. Right? She doesn't look like Giselle to me, all right? Look at this one. Hardison, you've seen this in Las Vegas before. Look when you really get drunk or stupid or smoke too much cannabis. Where are you parking your car? That's for the. That's for the. Imagine the poor guy that goes out and says, hey, I had to get all the shopping carts. All right. The next one, this is John's face when he figured out he had to do a podcast with Hardison and Fish. Look. Wow. That's real. I mean, wow. That is effing real right there. All right. And then we go even further. Look at this. Are you kidding me? What the F is this? Read that. Somewhere in America there's about to be an ER nurse with a great story to tell. How do you get that on a bike? Nuts. And then sometimes you got to go with a little bit of a meme and a rhyme, and it goes like this. It's all shits and giggles until someone giggles and shits. So John knows I always say shits and giggles. And then when it's all said and done on our Schmucks of the Week, all right, it's not a schmuck. Sometimes you just got to smoke one, do a blunt, do a bowl at the end of the night, be Homer Simpson, and just do it later and like sit in that Nike logo. Isn't that cool?
That's perfect. That's
awesome.
Perfect. All right. Let's see who's got the swag this week. Who are we toasting, Fish?
Well, we're gonna toast. Let me get to the guy in the icon. I got so many icons here. I got to find the guy. This is such a great story. This is Anthony Harris.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, Anthony Harris is a safety from the Philadelphia Eagles, and he found out that this young kid, 11-year-old kid, lost her father and her grandfather in the same week. All right, and then she needed someone to go to the father-daughter dance, and the guy flies out to the city she's in. It's on the West Coast, and quote, by her mother, Holly Soak, we had such a horrible year. She's been through so much. What a class act this guy is. I mean, to do something like that, and it just, it just will show you what when people have a good heart, what they could do. And he's basically, he's got, hang on. I gotta give him the logo. He's got the
He's got to have the logo. He's got to have the logo. All right, perfect. All right, and now we're going to toast Audrey and Anthony with our drink of the week. All right, Fish, what are we sipping here?
Well, in honor of one of my alumni from the University of Texas, because I graduated from Texas way before Ricky was probably born. I try to put word association, so beer bong and beer. If I had a Lone Star, I'd drink it, but I got Italian blood, I got a Peroni. But we're going to drink to Ricky Williams and John Hardison, who's our co-star, and everyone have a great 2022. Very healthy.
Absolutely. And also to Audrey and Anthony as well. The Daily Fish Drink of the Week is sponsored by Shuck's Tavern. If you're in Vegas, great seafood and drinks in 2 locations. All you have to do is head to Shuck's Tavern on North Durango on the northwest side of town, where fish is overnight. Say Daily Fish Podcast, you get a free drink. Do it the next day, a free appetizer. That's Shuck's Tavern. Check out Shuck's Tavern on Facebook. All right, we're just getting started. Up next, we're going to gab with Ricky Williams. But first, now is the time to book that golf weekend down south. It is getting to be prime time down here. The Myrtle Beach Golf Trail has dozens of courses along the Carolina coast. Set up an entire trip for yourself, your family, or a bunch of friends. The site it's real easy, myrtlebeachgolftrail.com. And it's starting to fill up, folks. I can tell you right now because I'm down here. So get on there now and book that golf weekend or that golf week. All right, let's bring on, we got Hardison here, but you're going to bring on Ricky Williams. He is a Heisman Trophy winner from Texas and also in the College Football Hall of Fame. He played 11 seasons in the NFL, is one of the best running backs of all time. He's also a cannabis advocate with his company, Heisman. Ricky, welcome to Daily Fish.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It's great to have you here. Hey, we're bringing back our man Hardline to join us since he is one of your big fans. So, Hardline, go ahead, dive in and ask Ricky the first question.
Ricky, pleasure to meet you. I just want to start off by saying it's such an honor to have you on the show.
Thank you. It's an honor to be on the show. Yeah, I love to talk, so this is great.
It's what I'm a millennial, and for my generation, there's 2 running backs for us that we consider pretty much the greatest. It's you and Adrian Peterson. Like for us, you two are the GOAT stature because of your ability to not only deliver punishment going through the hole, but your ability to just be who you are regardless of what anyone has to say. My question for you is, how do you feel about kind of the shift now that we're talking about the effects of marijuana and how so many players now are using it as healing purposes instead of going the other direction, and kind of the stones that you took for that when you first came out as an advocate in the early 2000s?
I was a kid when Charles Barkley came out with that famous quote that I'm not a role model. And so I always took the responsibility of being a professional athlete and being a role model very seriously. And I think that's where I was torn because of being the external idea of what a role model was supposed to be. We're supposed to tell people, like, say no to drugs, like don't smoke marijuana. Okay. But internally, the way that I was living my life is I was doing it on a daily basis, and it was improving the quality of my life. And so I was torn because I wanted to be a role model, but the role model that I was supposed to be didn't feel authentic to me. And eventually this led to like a crisis of consciousness where I had to just walk away from being a football player and like figure some stuff out. And at the end of the day, I found out that my example or my idea of a role model is someone who's willing to be themselves. And so I had to start living a life that was more authentic to myself. And that's how I ended up here.
Yeah. I'll jump in and tell you just a little story. You can see my pro football team in the background, Ricky. Obviously, I went to Texas.
Sure did.
My allegiance to the Raider Nation. When I covered the Raiders for America Online between 98 and 2004. And when I flew up to Oakland in 98, I used to go to this bar called Ricky's, irony, of San Leandro, probably the greatest bar in Raider history. And I made them take their satellite dish and put on University of Texas games in your senior year. And I watched the one when you broke Tony Dorsett's record against A&M. I'm going crazy. The guy had 2,327 yards that year, Hardline. It's incredible. Then we'll segue to 99. I'm covering the draft. I'm in that draft room in Madison Square Garden, and everyone's screaming, Ricky Williams for Philadelphia. They take Don McNabb. They start booing. So you know what happens, Hardline? I'm going to educate you because Ricky knows this. Mike Ditka goes out and trades the entire draft to get Ricky and the first and the third pick in the 2000 draft. But then this comes out, Ricky, and I don't want to embarrass you, but I got to ask you because Academy Awards are coming out, and I have women making comments on the show. Okay, they want to know, when this came out on ESPN, the magazine, they want to know, is that a Vera Wang? Is that a Yves Saint Laurent? Is that a Christian Dior look that you had? Because, you know, these starlets want to wear what you wore for the cover of that ESPN magazine. What was it?
Honestly, I don't remember. You know, it was a lot. That was 1999. That was the 90s. Okay, so I don't even know if they even had those kind of. I knew it was a size 15. That's all I remember. It was a size 15.
Can I follow up on that, Ricky? Because you played for the most dynamic coach in Mike Ditka that was known for his tirade. You saw him tear Jim Harbaugh a new asshole on the sideline when he was with the Bears, and you heard him in the locker room that we haven't just go off. You couldn't get him to smoke a bowl or take a puff once in a while to calm his ass down? Or did you try?
No, honestly, I wasn't really smoking my rookie year in the NFL.
Okay.
That was pre Sticky Ricky. But no one, if it was post, of course we would have. But you know, though, he was part of that was an act, but part of it is he's just a passionate guy. And
Sure.
And to me, like, even if you smoke, like, it might calm you down, but it doesn't take away your passion.
No, it doesn't. And you know, you go through your career and you think, God, you know, you played 2000, you played in the Canadian Football League. I think it was 2006 with Toronto, and you finish out with the Ravens. And he's right. I was telling the guys in the rehearsal that there's two statues outside the stadium. It's Earl Campbell and you. And
yeah.
Both Johns, you have to go to a game at the end. John went to Providence. I don't even know where Hardline went to college, but you got to go to a game at Texas. If you're to go to a game, we got to go to the Red River Robbery when they play Oklahoma. Ricky knows all about that. There's nothing like Texas. There's nothing like Texas football. I don't care what he did in the pros. He'll tell you that when you play in Texas. Now, you came from San Diego. You went to Patrick Henry High School. You got Reggie Bush, Alex Smith, Marcus Allen. All these great kids came out of San Diego. Where I think about what I did down there was smoke pot and surf on Mission Beach, and you guys are running the football. Did you play against? Let me see. I know. If I remember correct, Alex Smith and Reggie went to Helix High School, and I think Marcus went to Lincoln.
He went to Lincoln.
Did you play against anybody when you went to high school? Did you play anybody that went to the pros?
I wrestled against a guy by the name of Stephen Neal, who ended up, he played offensive line for the Patriots, won I think at least one Super Bowl, and he played for San Diego High. So I did play against him, but he wasn't known as a football player at that time. You know, but really, I'm thinking my time playing in San Diego, there was not a lot of guys that anyone else has really heard of. You know, and yeah, when I was growing up in Southern California, I really wanted to be a college football player. I honestly had no aspirations of being a professional football player at all. But I went to college and I had so much success that it just kind of became the next natural move. But I should have known, because as soon as I went over, I was like miserable. You know, like, football players are great. They're warriors, and I love to go to war with them. I'm just not a typical football player, so I really never fit in. And it was just a whole interesting. It was more like Alice in Wonderland for me, being in that whole environment, more than it was like something that actually felt comfortable or natural to me.
So, Ricky, what drew you to Texas? Because you're a guy from California. You think of San Diego, beaches, beautiful women, and then you go to Austin, Texas. What was that?
Have you been to Austin? Have you been to Austin? Because there's beaches and beautiful women in Austin too.
Okay.
And I took my recruiting trip December 17th, 1994. It was 72 degrees in Austin. And I never left California before, so I expected when I flew into Texas, I was going to see tumbleweed rolling down the tarmac, and that's not what I saw at all. I mean, especially if you go out into the countryside, the hill country in Austin is really beautiful. And they were somehow they knew to take me on that drive, and I left Austin feeling like I could see myself doing something special in that place.
You know that Ricky went to a college that I went to, that the women outnumber the men 2 to 1. And he's talking about Lake Travis. You ever go to Barton Springs when you were there, Ricky? That the water comes up that's cold when it's hot. And there's so many weird things that are neat about Austin. It's a cultural center of the Southwest. I lived off campus, Ricky. I lived off of Riverside and Old Torp at the Kingsgate Apartments, which is still there.
I know exactly where that is.
Yeah. So it's a party school. It's a great school. When I was there, obviously in the late 70s, early 80s, and you probably got a part of it, the culture of the town was still a college football town. And now, if you go back, you've been back. I-35 is a bottleneck. It's still Austin has a great allure to it. It's just, I know you have.
It's different. It's still Austin, but it's not. It doesn't have that same charm it used to have. Even when I got there in the mid '90s.
What was it like going? We all watched Bill Maher the other night, and he's one of our idols. What was it like? He's great. He's got to be one of the greatest interviewers ever. Did you enjoy that interview you did with him?
Yeah, it was great. It was just like sitting down talking to a friend with the studio audience. I loved it.
Good.
Had you ever met Bill before?
No, that was the first time.
Wow. Does he actually sit with you ahead of time before you go on, or is you just walk out there and you meet him for the first time?
So they have us in the back, and when he walks out, he walks out and he looked at me and he shook my hand and then he just kept on walking.
Now, was it confusing because you're his guest up front? And did they tell you, hey, you got to stay seated when he leaves your interview and goes over there? Did you have to? It's kind of like
exactly what they said. That's exactly what they said. That's exactly what they said. They said you said when he gets up and leaves, you have to sit down. But it was weird because, he got up to shake my hand, but I was hearing them in my ear saying sit down. So I was shaking his hand when I was sitting down, and I was like, it would have just made sense if I would have just stood up and then let him walk, but it was now I know for next time. I got it.
There you go. Hey, talk about your company, Heisman. Heisman.co is the website. Talk about exactly what that is. It's cannabis related, and is it nationwide? Is it worldwide? Tell us how you started it.
Yeah. So we call ourselves a lifestyle brand, and we're a cannabis lifestyle brand. And what I love about it is we're creating a culture. When I was growing up, cannabis and sports were separate. The coaches said if you smoke pot, you're going to be a loser. Right? That was the story that we heard, and I grew up in that. But I got to the point where I realized actually smoking pot helped me recover and help me take care of myself and help me become a better person. And so in my mind, I see and my experience is cannabis can help us achieve our greatness. And that's the story that I'm trying to tell. And bringing these two things together is achievement and altered states of consciousness. And so I love it because it's giving me a platform and an opportunity to have these kinds of conversations. So many times when people talk about cannabis, even if they're having fun, it's still making fun of people and joking. And I think that's great and it's light, but it's actually missing the true value of cannabis. And my own personal experience and studies have shown me, if you read books, and there's a lot of books out there, there's something called cannabis has been used as a religious or holy sacrament. When I first read that, I was like, what does that even mean? Yeah, and I just kept reading and studying and trying to understand what that means. And I came across the definition, and they say a holy or religious sacrament is something that you partake of of the physical world that helps you connect or commune with something greater or something higher. And I reflected back on my experiences of consuming cannabis, and after practice, I would start to think, and I would feel good, and I'd start to allow my mind to wander, and I'd start to think bigger thoughts, positive thoughts of wanting to be a better person, thoughts of doing things that are bigger than just doing things for myself. And to me, as I started to listen to those voices and do more of those things, I became less anxious, I became happier, I became more fulfilled. And it made sense to me. And so this is why I'm starting Heisman, to be able to have these conversations and to let people know that cannabis is something that you can use to spark greatness.
Do you feel as though it made you feel more free? Because it seems like you're kind of a very free thinker. Do you feel like not only smoking marijuana, but just in that aspect made you feel like a more free individual?
Well, there's a couple of parts of it. There's one is the symbolic idea. The symbolic idea is the rules of what I was told is don't do this. Okay. And usually when we think of freedom, it's always in the context of someone trying to put us in some kind of box, freedom from something. Okay. And I realized just in my life, I've been living my life based on other people's rules and not really even asking myself what's important to me, what's valuable to me. And in a sense of freedom where I started to value my own opinion and my own insight more than what I thought I was supposed to do or what people were telling me, that felt like tremendous freedom. Because I realized I'm a really intelligent guy. And if I trust myself, I can figure pretty much anything out. And that's freeing to me because I don't have to be afraid of anything because I believe in myself.
Ricky, talk about. I'm really interested in astrology. Talk about astrology in your life and what it's done as far as the bringing a Zen out of you. Do you look at all the astrologies and the zodiacs and it helps you get a better mindset?
I mean that's one way. That's one way to put it. I just think, unlike most people, I'm actually a real person. Like when I say things, I actually carry out what I say, and I actually believe in the things that come out of my mouth. And so, in order to do that, we have to have some kind of frame of reference, right? And so, as I look at astrology in a sense like a belief system. So, for an example is I'm a Gemini, okay, and in my belief system, a Gemini means that I'm energized and vitalized by new information. So every day, as my religion, I make sure that I read. I make sure that every day I'm learning more and more information. And the other part of Gemini is we're communicators, because the point of reading and becoming interested is to share the information with other people. And so that's how I live my life: is I talk to people, I share information, I share insights, I share things that I've experienced. And usually people appreciate it because I offer them some kind of new perspective or different way to look at things that allows them to be more free, right? And so it's a frame of reference. I don't like most people look at astrology and say it tells me what to do. It's a frame of reference that helps me understand kind of how everything fits.
Ricky, I had a question because I've read that you're very into yoga. Can you talk about how yoga's helped you throughout your career, how it's helped you just kind of in your personal life, being able to just balance everything?
Yeah. So yoga, right? When most people say yoga, that like, what are we talking about? And for me, again, when I go into something, I go full bore. So I took a yoga class. This was the 2004 after I retired. Took a yoga class because it was part of my school. I went back to school. And after taking one class, I just had this really deep sense of relaxation and peace. And I was like, man, I got to get more of this. And so I went up to the yoga teacher and I said, where can I get more of this? And he said, we have a yoga ashram, which is like a retreat right down the road that you can come take classes every day. So I started going there every day. And I met the person that ran the whole retreat, and she said, I'm about to go to India to teach a yoga teacher's training. And so I said, can I go? And she said, sure. So we went to India, and I spent, several months in India, like really studying like the yoga, like real yoga. Okay. And so the word yoga and the word religion, they both come from the same root, which means to bind back or to tie back. And so really the root of all religions is the same, is synonymous with the idea of yoga. It's about a kind of spiritual practices that we do to help us, move towards enlightenment or happiness, whatever you want to call it. Okay. And so yoga for me is a way of life. I consider myself a spiritual person, meaning that I think the purpose of my life is to do whatever I can to make the world a better place. And so yoga are the practices that give you the mindset and the energy and the vitality to be able to do that.
Are you a vinyasa type of guy, or are you just...
So again, like what most people talk about yoga, they're talking about asanas or the postures. But the whole point of here's the story of yoga. I'll just give you a little history lesson. Okay. So 1894, a yogi, a spiritual guru from India named Swami Vivekananda came over to speak at the World Fair in Chicago. And it was really the first time that the West had been introduced to yoga. And he gave this impassioned speech about everyone coming together, and it got a really, really warm welcome. And so we started coming back to America and trying to teach Americans how to meditate, how to think positive and how to meditate. but he found Americans' minds were too active and too crazy that he couldn't. They didn't have the subtlety of minds to be able to learn how to meditate, and so he like went back to the scriptures and he found these kind of arcane like exercises that would help people like their mind calm down. And so he like reinvented yoga just for Americans to like get out of their mind so much so that they can become more relaxed and to do yoga. But the true purpose of the asanas or the postures and the breathing exercises is to teach meditation and subtlety of the mind. So so I do a specific type of yoga that is more specifically tuned to using the body to help calm the mind.
Wow. Back to football for a second, Ricky. Hugh Douglas, who played as a linebacker with Philadelphia, probably around the same time you did, had a great line on NFL Network during Super Bowl week when he said, "My time in NFL was the 2 M's, money and memories. And a lot of us played the sport because we couldn't afford not to." Did you ever feel that way in your career, that you played because the money was so great, but your head just wasn't really into it? Did you ever get that? Did you have teammates like that? Is that a common theme?
Well, if anyone who's followed my career knows that I really don't do things for money.
Yeah, but that was Hugh's thing. But he said that a lot of guys play.
But again, though, that's kind of. Well, this is kind of what it's piggybacking off what I said earlier about as soon as I got to the NFL, I realized like this is not what I thought it was. Whereas the thing about college football, and it's changing now, I think they're kind of ruining it with the money stuff. But the whole idea of college football was an amateur sport. And the word amateur comes from the root amor, which means love. This idea of doing it for the love of the game. And sometimes, unfortunately, when you start throwing a lot of money, it starts to sour the idea of doing something for the love of the game.
Can you see it actually affecting it already, even though it's just in the early stages?
I mean, I can't tell. I don't watch closely enough, but being a college student, there's already enough distractions. I don't like, I mean, I'm old school, so I don't mean to say that my opinion is right. I'm definitely old school.
Ricky, let me ask you this about, your philosophy, yet at the same time, too, a lot of people believe, and I've got people that were in my family who wouldn't allow me to play football because they thought it damaged the body. How do you reconcile football and the fact that, we did have those head injuries? We still have head injuries. There's a lot of people whose bodies get damaged and destroyed, and they don't live as long or as good lives because of that. Do you agree with that? Can you reconcile that? Do you still think it's worth it?
I've seen bad relationships do more harm to people than football. And I think most people would agree with that. And, it's an interesting answer, I know. But if we think about it, there's so many things that we do to ourselves, to our bodies that are not good for our bodies. And then at the end of the day, we can look back and say, this shortened the length of my life. To me, the question isn't how long do we live? It's the quality of the time that we do live. And even if my life is shortened because I played football, the intensity of experience and the things that playing football allowed me to do, I'll take the quality over the quantity any day. And so, my attitude, and this is the attitude I think you have to be a successful warrior, is that it's about quality. And if you don't have that mindset, then you probably shouldn't be doing something like playing football.
Ricky, and of course you're a Longhorn and so am I, so we're connected in the fact that I believe this. With all the strife that's going on in the world right now, we're looking at maybe some countries invading others. Why can't we have Ricky Williams as a spokesperson to go over to these places and give a guy like Putin and give Biden, anybody, some Heisman? Give him some product because but they're not living their lives like you do. They're not articulate, and they don't think about the common good of making themselves better and other people. I just say you should be an ambassador to humans because talking to you energizes me. You know what? That's what a Longhorn education does for you guys. Sorry.
Amen to that. What starts here changes the world. Yes, that's Texas.
Yes. I love how you're all in on everything. I know that I don't know if you still do the photography or do you not still do it, but do you still do the photography? And I always have this candid picture in my head in 2012 after the 2011 season with the Ravens, you being down in New Orleans and taking those pictures on the sideline. And can you talk about that?
Yeah. So, it's funny when you're famous, right? And people cover something. So, yeah, I was all in, 100% all in on photography. And I used my fame to be able to photograph the Super Bowl. I was able to photograph the Australian Open, a couple of, I think, the World Series. So, I got the most out of that. Um, and that was fun. And now I get to talk to people about photography, and the fact that I could take pictures. Again, it just allowed me to do some really cool stuff. But yeah, but I'm not really into cameras anymore. I gave all my cameras to my son, and he's really taken over the passion, and he's all in.
Ricky, talk about going to your site. I want you to talk a little bit more about Heisman.co. When people go there, are they looking to buy products? Are they just looking to get a state of mind? What would you say to people, and who should be going to the site?
Yeah, this is a good question. So we just launched several months ago, and I had a conversation this morning with the CEO, and right now, because we're just launching, so much has really been about building the hype. And now we're moving into a place where we're really settling in on building a community. And so it's really anyone who has an appreciation for cannabis, and people also who have an appreciation for the positive benefits. And when I say positive benefits, I don't mean that it helps my bumps and my bruises. You know, I mean, positive benefit is where it stimulates creativity, right? Or even if it helps you sleep so that you are more active. Just starting to have this different conversation, one that's not rooted in this is a bad thing, one that's rooted in the future and what's possible.
Right. We just witnessed in this last season the retirement of Tom Brady, who's probably the most disciplined guy I've ever seen, that stuck by that diet, that TB12, and at 44 years old, Ricky, it still has the same velocity in the ball that he threw when he was 25. But I think he went to Heisman because I got a lot of crap for what happened last week. I think he went to McDonald's, and this is what he did after he smoked cannabis. Look at that. I mean, this guy's a perfect spokesperson for going because look, I've done some product, and I've got a little munchies, and I'm a bartender. I met John, this guy, this handsome guy, Hardline. He's a friend of mine. I mean, I do with a lot of customers that they walk in. I love that smell. Then they're eating my food. I love it.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
And I think Tom Brady might be a great spokesman person for you, Rick. I'm just throwing it out there, buddy.
He's been wearing this
one more to the other.
Well, again, I mean, like, I understand the jokes because this is the legacy of where we're coming from, and so I laugh with all the best. But if you look at some of the most beautiful pieces of music, some of the best food that any of us have tasted, right? Beautiful art. A lot of it has been inspired by drugs, by altered states of consciousness. These things that allow people to connect to the greater good and to do something. And hopefully we're evolving into a place where this is something that is honored and cherished. We look at all the chaos going on in the world, right? And if more people were consuming cannabis and trying to love and take care of each other, the world is going to be in a better place. Even if everyone does put on an extra 15 or 20 pounds.
It's funny that this handsome guy says that, because if you think about it, you just got something to me. I'm 61 years old, Ricky, so I got a chance. John and I live in the 60s and 70s. I'm thinking, how many great songs the Beatles wrote and Jimi Hendrix that they were on acid and stuff like that, and beautiful. And I'm not a big person into paintings, but I guess the Van Goghs, I bet you they were high on all kinds of stuff. And you know what? You just opened my mind to something. Maybe I should start painting.
Yeah, it's real. No, but I'm serious. Like, we can say, oh, we're anti, but if we're enjoying the music that was inspired, okay.
Yeah. I got to tell you, when I watched all the commercials on the Super Bowl, all the music was 60s and 70s and early 80s music.
Yeah.
So, there's some truth to that, Fish. That's for sure.
Or even the halftime show.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, Dre's biggest album was called The Chronic. I mean, come on.
I never would have expected them ever to book, in my lifetime, ever book Snoop Dogg or Dr. Dre or any one of those. And Ricky, you and I both grew up, you are older than me, but grew up in the 90s, especially when The Chronic came out and how controversial it was just off of the name itself.
Yeah, and I'm reminded, like, I grew up in San Diego. I grew up in Southern California. And so, this is part of the culture, and I feel like it's an honor to be able to take the to represent Southern California culture and bring it around the world.
Well,
You
Ricky,
hear
it's
that,
an
John?
honor.
You hear that? I'm an LA guy. He's a San Diego guy. You guys, you're a Detroit guy. John's from
New England,
Rhode Island, whatever. Yeah, take it from the West Coast, man. We represent.
Absolutely. Well, Ricky, it's been an honor. We've been talking to Heisman Trophy winner and NFL great Ricky Williams. He runs a cannabis company called Heisman, and you can see his products and concept at Heisman, and it's HIGHSMAN.co, and go check it out. Hey, Ricky, thank you so much. Very enlightening. We have been so excited about getting a chance to talk to you. So this has been so much fun. We really appreciate it.
Nah, this was great. Thank you, guys.
All right. We'd love to have you back again, buddy. Thank you.
Please.
Hook 'em.
There you go. All right. Coming up, we're going to wrap things up here. Plus, we'll tell you about next week's guest, another good one, especially if you're a football fan who wants to stay connected during the offseason and the draft. Hey, first, check out Miracle Flights. They have provided free flights for those needing life-changing medical care not available in their own community. I've seen it work for myself since 1985. They provided more than 127,000 free flights. See if you can help. Go to miracleflights.org. Also, remember, Daly Fish is live from Vegas and Myrtle Beach. Catch us on Facebook at daily.fish.5. You can also catch us on Facebook on the Myrtle Beach Golf Channel and Myrtle Beach Grand Strand Life. That's on Facebook. We're also on the DBNA Television Network and DBNA Television on Roku and Amazon Fire, and we're on YouTube. Again, you can write to us at dailyfish1@gmail.com. So Fish and Hardlines staying with us. Next week, we have Chris Landry. He has lived his life in college and pro football as a coach, a scout, an administrator. And folks, prep for it for next week if you can. Check out his site. It's LandryFootball.com. He's got a ton of insight into all the teams that would be your favorite team. Go look at it. Drop us some questions that you might have. And I got to tell you guys, the Hot Stove League for me in football is fabulous. I am so looking forward to it. Yeah, I know the games are over, but I think leading up to this is really cool. So, Fish, you actually got Chris, and this is a really exciting time for us as we lead into the draft.
What's exciting is that my brothers texted me, both Bobby and Johnny, and they said, Hardline was so great in the interview, you should retire and he should take your spot. You were. Let me tell you something. Chris Landry's going to be great, and we both get these guests on. This was besides Cranston and some others, my favorite show because I learned so much. What an articulate young man. And
absolutely.
You need guys like this in our lives to be mentors and ambassadors. I'm sorry. This guy to me has the it factor, and I want your opinions on this. We got 2 minutes. That he's a leader. Don't you guys agree?
Go Hardline, yeah.
Absolutely. It's he definitely is.
Yeah, he's the type of guy you want to sit, have a drink and a dinner with. You just want to.
You're doing more than that, John. You're doing more than that.
Well, yeah, definitely. That's for sure.
Hey,
but
John,
I think
this is what you'd be doing.
That's fine. Because he's going to talk about the books he read, so you're going to be even more enlightened on different things. So, yeah, no, I thought he was just great, and I got to thank my friend Mark Dvornik, who worked with me in television. And Mark said, he goes, "Oh," he says, "I know Ricky really well." He says, "You want him on the show?" I was like, "Are you kidding?"
It's amazing how free he is, and you don't see that with a lot of players. Everything is, what's my image? Am I going to say the wrong thing? Is the wrong sponsor going to drop me? And he's just like, you know what? I'm doing what I believe is right. I'm doing what I believe. There is more to life than just sports and being on the field. And trust me, I love it. But you got to think of the future. And I just love the fact that he was like, I never saw myself as being an NFL athlete. I always thought about myself as just doing this for the love of what I love.
Real quick. We got to get out of here in like 30 seconds. But you hear a lot of athletes nowadays talk about building their brand. He was never about that. It was about building himself and the inner self. And the football just came out. And I'll tell you, Hardline, how old were you in 1998? You were a kid then, right?
Yeah, I was 8.
Yeah. Well, he ran for 23-27. It was amazing. Daly remembers that. And we were friends. We became friends 2 years later. But I was, wow, to have a guy like that represent your school and the kind of person he is. I'm so proud of you guys. This show is just building. John, you got 20 seconds to take us out.
Well, I already did. That's why I did all the stuff ahead of time. So we're going to get out on time, folks. It was a great show. Fish, I love you. Hardline, great job, buddy. Glad to have you on. We'll see you all next week here on Daily Fish.
And Hardline's taking my spot.